So on totals, for me, that's the one thing in the playoffs that you'll get is you could have three quarters could be just dynamite. But when it's 5 minutes in a close game, you're going to slow it down. You're going to take the time. You're going to make sure you get a good shot. Unless you're Chris Finch, the worst coach in the NBA of the Timberwolves, you're not going to do that. But everybody else is going to try and get the best shot. They're going to slow it down. They're going to try and get less possessions. And that's one thing where I don't really bet totals in the playoffs because I don't know what I'm going to get. It's just a situation where the crowd gets in it. You make one shot. Each shot becomes bigger. You're going to slow it down. And that's kind of where I stay away from my overs. But yeah, based on trends, these teams have been scoring enough to get to that over. I just hate it because when I need points and they want to take 23 seconds of the shot clock, it's a frustrating watch. So I'm going to stay away from any totals tomorrow.
John from GMF, if you're betting a total in an NBA game, you have to be paying attention and doing it in live action because you might end up having 4 or 5 bets in middle in it and having a 16 Memphis way high on those overs. And that's part of it, Jonathan, too. It's not necessarily that under over number is tough to get. It's whether or not it's a valuable number. Like you said, if the value is there, you think the line should be 227 and it's 220, you got no choice but to bet the over. I love when they start slow and you go to covers. Covers is saying the final score is going to be 204. The opening line is 226 and the book is showing 224. And all of a sudden, then you have to start paying attention to those numbers because if you end up going with 10 plays in a game because you like the total and you go 7-3, it doesn't really matter. You just say, hey, I won this much money on this game. And then you move to the next game because these games you're going to get into teams where you'll get 5, 6, 7, whatever it is, over under, you're going to get them in a row. When the NBA has got the best teams left, it's some of the best sports betting there is.
This round of playoffs right here coming up is going to be fantastic. I think we're going to see some excellent games, possibly almost every series go to 6 or 7.
Oh, it's so different, isn't it, watching the games? Because right now I'm in a hiatus, so I'm not really betting a lot of the games. I'm kind of just watching. In my heart, I know what I would like or what I would be doing or what people are doing or where the public's on. And so you get to watch a game knowing that these guys are getting their hairs ripped out.
The ups and downs, the misses, they put yourself in those better shoes.
If Jonathan is still pissing and moaning about the coach today, how do you think it was for his wife last night?
I was with my wife watching this game last night, and I was having a couple drinks. I coach middle school girls basketball. I had a better out of bounds, out of a timeout play than the Timberwolves ran all night yesterday. And I've lost a lot of bets, right? I mean, if you've done this for a while, you're going to lose a lot. You're going to win a lot. Up 13, they were up 16 game 3, lost by 9, up double digits last game, couldn't finish it. This game, I'm like, they're up 13, and I literally looked at her, I'm like, well, here it comes. How are you up 13, and the first thing you do is take a 3-point, 28-foot shot contested with 20 seconds left on the shot clock? Just makes no sense. And they go on a run. Now they cut it to 3. Okay, good coaching move, call timeout, stop the run. I'm thinking off a timeout, you're going to have a set play. That's what every coach should do is try to stop a run. You're going to take your timeout. You're going to come in with a set play. They played one-on-one basketball, took a 20-foot step-back contested 2-point shot with 4 people on the perimeter, nobody crashing the boards. That's just simple basketball that any other coach would have made. I think right now what I've seen, on a side note, worst coach is Chris Finch, and Doc Rivers is right there. You're up 30. Why isn't it beat in the game? That game, I think I moneylined the Sixers. That didn't affect me. But if you're a Sixers fan, you're on to the next round. Why is he still in the game?
The Derby stuff. Now, John, I've talked to you about it, but Jonathan, I'm not sure. Do you play the horses often?
I do play the horses. I listen to people. I don't follow horse racing year-round. I go to the Derby and I'll pretend like I know what I'm talking about, but I kind of listen and pick and choose. And for me, I love value, bigger the payout. I'm going to sprinkle a bunch on what I can get paid on. So one thing I don't do is bet favorite. Stick to 2, 3 horses, box them, parlay them, do something like that. But that's kind of how I bet my horses. It's really fun. We do have a horse track here in San Antonio. We don't have any like the big races, but we have a place I can go and place my bets and watch the races. I just don't really pick my own horses.
You've told us stories of following guys, and what do you think Sports Betting Weekly is, man? You listen to this show for an hour every week. You hear from a handful of people, and they all know what they're talking about. They all give you winners. Why do you handicap? Do you know how much time I spent this morning because I'm not in sports mode right now. I actually take, whenever I'm on a hiatus from the show, I kind of get away from it. Not because I don't love sports. I pay attention, but I got a wife and kids. And wives and kids, nobody told me that when you have wives and kids that you're going to have responsibilities. I thought you just had wives and kids, but they really do suck up a lot of time, don't they? I know, Jonathan, you got a new one on the way. Wes's wife is pregnant as well. We're going to have 2 babies, John, from GMF that we got to buy presents for. John, from GMF Sports, do you plan on playing the Derby heavy, or are you just going to have fun with it?
I'm just going to have fun with it. I grew up on the East Coast in New York, and I grew up actually betting the ponies running into the OTBs. So that's really what kind of kicked off my gambling fascination back in the early days. I haven't really kept track or followed any of the horses, trainers, but I'm going to play it. I'm going to put in some exactas. I'm going to put in some trifectas. Funny story, last year, my wife actually hit the trifectas from the Derby. So I might even give her a couple dollars and let her see if she can have another crack at it again, because she got extremely lucky last year. So
I do remember that. And of course, the last couple of years, we had that one horse that got disqualified. And then we had another one get disqualified after like 9 months, and the horse was already dead. So horse racing definitely needs a little help because it's trying to be its own worst enemy, But here's what I got. I do it every year. I showed John and Wes on our show, Arrow, the data file. I have a data file that goes back from like 2007. So for every single Derby since 2007, I keep the records. And you know what? We cash a lot of tickets on Derby Day, but I don't really look for the winner. Jonathan made a great point. The favorite wins a third of the time. So 2/3 of the time, the favorite's going to lose this race. But this is not just a normal horse race. This is a 20-horse race. And that means that the favorite probably doesn't even win a third of its time in the Derbies. It's much, much lower than that. So I'm looking for pick 4s for the 4th race ending at the Derby, and I'm looking for superfecta. So I don't really care who wins. I care if that number is on my ticket. We go to Del Mar every year. So if you get a chance and you're in Southern California, head over to Del Mar. It's really easy to get in and out of Del Mar for off-track betting, not as much when there's live racing there. And Jonathan, you know it because you were just talking about it. It's nice when you can zip in. I mean, I miss the OTBs, John, from New York. When I was in Connecticut, we'd hang out all day. I told you, we hang out in the parking lot all day. So here's what I've got. Top point I have is Epicenter and Messier. They're tied. And then I got Mo Donegal, Smile Happy, Tis the Bomb, White Abario, and Zandon. They're tied in the 2nd spot. And then Classic, Causeway, Taba, and Tawny Port are tied in the 3rd. But the one that I'm going to tell you, who's my long shot play of the day, is Barber Road, because all Barber Road does is finish in the money. The horse doesn't know anything more, and right now it's got to be 20 to 30 to 1. So if Barber Road is in the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th spot on Derby Day, you're probably going to see me more drunk than normal, guys. I do the social media. Social media and drinking, to me, they don't go hand in hand. You got to remember to leave, to not walk away. How many guys do you walk away and you leave the freaking ticket in the window? I've had that happen to me where I found the guy's ticket, and I look around and I try to find the guy, but if he's gone, my money.
It's wildness. You're not going to find them in that crowd. When I go, it's so many people, and it's just crazy.
The sad part is, I mean, if it's a lot of money, it's $19. I'm not going to worry about it. And if you don't pay attention, you don't even know, because what happened is that person did take out their ticket. So you stick your ticket in, and maybe the number's off a little bit, but you figure it's your math. But if it's off $600, cancel that. You do the right thing. You find the guy. You say, hey, somebody left the ticket in here because this is way much more money than I was supposed to have. You do the right thing in life. It tends to come back to you in sports betting.
Yeah, I would say the one thing with horse betting for me is, like I said, I like to get the value, right? So give me the most money for my buck. The problem with horse racing is if I'm like, hey, I love this, I'm going to get $100 to win 1,000. Like, I'll risk that, love it. But by the time the horse kicks off, some other people think the same I do, and now this $1,000 horse is $300. And so that's the one thing with horse racing is your odds will change, and you have no idea until it kicks off what the odds were. So sometimes I'm thinking like, oh, a lot of value. By the time the horse race kicks off, I'm still getting good value, but it's not what I bet it at. That's the one thing with other sports. If I take an underdog, that line's not moving. I'm locked in. I wish I knew more because I just bet because it's fun. I like going to the track, having a few beers, and seeing if I can turn some money into more money.
John can walk into a book with $12 and hit one of the poker machines. Most people don't do that. Most people, the only way you're going to win $1,000 walking into a sports book with $12 is with the horses. But they did that now. I don't know if you knew about this, Arrow and Petey, but in New Jersey, they are trying fixed horse racing odds, fixed odds for the first time. It's been approved, and they're trying to roll it out. Nothing worse than you bet a horse at 12 to 1 in the morning. You go to work, you hear he won, and he paid $7.20.
That's kind of crazy. So it's just in New Jersey?
It's officially passed in New Jersey. It's very common in the European markets because, you know what, we talked to Paolo, and Paolo's from Greece, and, when you're in Europe, the sports betting is like our grandfather. They've been doing this so much longer. They know so much more than we do, and they figured out how to do it well. So they have place pools and things of that nature where if it wins, that's what you're going to get. But a lot of times it's still based on that price that's on the board, and you don't know the price that's on the board until the race is off. And sometimes you still don't know because a lot of the racetracks only go to 99. And one time I hit a horse that was 99 to 1, but it was really 116 to 1.
It's just a crazy sport. So I live in Texas. We have a casino there called Tamarack. It's right there. Like if you're going to Tahoe, it's like that last casino if you want to place a bet before you go skiing. And they have a horse. Every casino's got a horse book, and a guy places a bet. Now in small print, right on the counter, the max they'll pay for horse betting is a $30,000 win. He didn't know that because the ticket that he put in, if he had put it at another casino, was a $950,000 win. He hits. He's expecting that goes in. They're only paying him $30,000.
What I did is I have the NHL from when we started talking about it to now and looking at what the moves were to see if those moves are jumping out at me. And most of them are, like the Rangers went from 1,800 to 1,100. But when we were talking about them, John, they were battling to get in the playoffs. And then they had a nice little run to finish the season. But at 11 to 1, John, do they have a shot, the Rangers? I don't think so.
It's going to be an interesting series, I think, to see how they match up here in the playoffs because I think they put a tremendous amount of energy and effort just, playing down the stretch here. You also have to remember they're playing some really, really good quality teams in that whole Eastern Conference.
You mentioned, John, Milwaukee. As a reigning champ, you always got to respect them. Tampa Bay went from 9 to 1 to 10 to 1.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, they're back to back and possibly could put another one. Toronto's also on that conversation. They play very well, even though they're up there in Canada, but they have an excellent home record. Don't forget about Carolina. Don't forget about the Panthers. That whole Eastern Conference slate is just so stacked up, and obviously with those teams, you have to put the Rangers towards the bottom of those teams. You could put the Lightning, the Leafs, the Hurricanes, all in those top categories of teams. So it's going to be great.
Especially when you have to score to win. They do not care how long they skate for. They will skate. Remember, they had when the Kings, one of the years I think the Kings were in, they had 6 and 7 overtimes. It was just insane.